I guess we really appreciate you being here. This is basically a short presentation about a proposal of a new initiative. Yes, thank you. A new initiative that we would like to spin up in the OpenSSF. So we are primarily interested in raising awareness, but also receiving feedback and, of course, trying to convince you that this is, in fact, a great idea. We currently refer to it as the OpenSSF Bug Squashing Allies. The name might change, and as we will kind of explain, it's more really about the allies part. Bug squashing is important too, but we'll see. Okay, so who are we? As Catherine already said, I'm Georg. I'm an open source program manager at Ericsson, and involved in a few initiatives in the OpenSSF. And with me,
my name is Melen, and I'm the general manager for Ericsson Software Technology in Finland. But basically, I'm the head of the CNCF teams that are actually sort of contributing to upstream from our part.
Right. So let's dig into this a little bit. So I'd like to start with shedding some light on two important, as I think, observations. First, and we are all here because we care about securing the supply chain. In order to do that successfully, at the end of the day, what do we need? We need developers on the ground doing stuff, right? So securing the supply chain, of course, and the open source ecosystem requires lots of different things. I'm aware of that. But at the end of the day, you need to have people working on the code, contributors from companies working collaboratively with projects to fix security issues, adopt best practices such as baseline, even maintaining dependencies, the simple but tedious things. So that needs to be done. You need to have people on the ground. That's observation number one. The second one is most companies have, hopefully, a relatively good understanding of the concerning projects that they rely on. Basically, projects that are not so great from a security perspective, but that are key to products, right? So assuming that there is this understanding out there, it is not lightheartedly shared among others in the industry because this is considered to be somewhat security sensitive. And probably that's right. You can debate it, but that's really not the point. The fun thing is, of course, that as we are all pretty much building on top of the same, technology stack, I bet that even though we don't talk about these projects, there's going to be a significant overlap between the critical projects across all our products. So what's happening is that the more mature companies, well, they take action, they send product team members into those projects and support the projects, but somewhat siloed, not too much collaboration necessarily going on, talking about these specific concerns. So the question that we want to raise is, how can we go about this? How shall we go about this as an industry? How can the OpenSSF facilitate, a more efficient way of allowing product teams to share their concerns and address the concerns in upstream projects, of course, in collaboration with upstream projects. So the key idea of this proposal is we build a network of allies, right? A network of partners with a shared goal to, talk about their concerns, their plans, which and what projects they're planning to address because they care about it, but also discuss more widely, more concerning or more fundamental security concerns, maybe addressing entire projects or critical dependencies. And doing all of that in the context of the OpenSSF in what I currently call a safe environment because of the sensitivity concerns. And it could be just like under Chatham House rule. But that would be, a step forward to hopefully facilitate product teams to, share their respective concerns and plans. I'd also like to mention three non-objectives, just to make this clear. So this is not an idea to spin up a centralized group that will coordinate resources or who's going to do what. There's no intention to fund a dedicated team. There's no intention to actively get involved in vulnerability disclosure. This is like product teams trying to help the projects they depend on. And I'd like to add a little bit more concreteness to this before Jan will kind of take this from a product team's perspective. What are kind of scenarios? What are benefits that we can hopefully derive from this? First of all, sharing information, sharing awareness, like who's going to do what and active in which projects. I mentioned that. Once we have that, we can leverage the network for simple things like getting new developers on board, right? Introducing a developer from my company to a new project, for instance, that you already have a developer in, very useful. Also, managing trust is important. You know, we all know the XZ story, so even kindly offering support has become a threat vector these days. So kind of building this framework within the OpenSSF of saying, okay, these are developers from member companies that really want to kind of support you here could really help. Providing mutual support, arguing for certain security features, something we bumped into, for instance, an enterprise security feature that was needed in a project was like the team had a little bit of a hard time arguing for why that is needed. But if you have, and that's fine, right? Maintainers can take those decisions to not take on something. But if we have a network of other, you know, corporate software users, open source users, you could have these discussions. Okay, are you also interested in that? And then jointly work with the team, with the maintainers to get features in. And finally, as I mentioned, discussing more wider security concerns. We know about projects that are critical. We know about dependencies that we'd rather like not to see deeply embedded in our technology stacks. So how can we go about it as an industry to, you know, replace dependencies? It's a non-trivial task, so we need to find a good approach. And that would be what this group could talk about. And with this, I'd like to hand it over to Jan.
Yep. I'm pushing you almost over the boundaries, but not exact. No, but I'm going to take then a bit different look on this. So sort of Georg asked me, or originally actually this ask came from already way before, that what are we actually doing in order to make these sort of projects more secure, and kind of tried to find good stories that are, okay, where are we actually sort of doing things on the security, and I could sort of take examples like Georg mentioned, that we have these sort of communities that say that, okay, this is an enterprise feature, we are not interested on sort of introducing TLS support or whatnot, but let's zoom out a bit. So what does all these sort of small things that we are sort of introducing in the different areas actually bringing to our sort of products? So in this case, we are zooming out to an infrastructure product, and where we went into the sort of 2 years ago, started to look at and hammering the actual product, that let's see what are the different things that are actually wrong in this. And it sort of starts to add up in that sense, that you start fixing one project, and then you go to the next project, and you sort of continuously do this work throughout all the different sort of critical projects that your sort of product is dependent on. And as a result of this sort of an exercise, our sort of goal was to build an infra product that can be sort of deployed in a zero trust environment. Then you can already sort of see that there will be these discussions with the community that, okay, but this CVE is not really sort of exploitable because you need to first have a sort of access to this and that component, and that's why it's not, we don't really care. But when you deploy in a zero trust environment, every CVE is sort of important for you, because if there is somebody who can actually do lateral movement inside your product, then you actually care about even those that might otherwise seem sort of small things. So what we started to do is that we started to sort of address this issue of bumping up all the dependencies, doing automation around the sort of tooling and security tooling, and introducing new sort of security scanning tools on the projects. And when you sort of look at kind of from the time perspective, we have been now doing this roughly 1.5 years or 2 years already. And it sort of adds up that we have actually found 73 first-level vulnerabilities in these projects that are critical to us. We have pumped out more than 900 dependencies on all of the projects, sort of doing that continuously, building new versions and bringing new versions into the sort of products. And this is exactly what we are sort of looking into more sort of help of from all the allies or partners there, because I know many of these, what we have done is probably also key to you as well in your products, and of course vice versa. So as a community, I think we should be sort of starting to do more of this. Then next you might actually ask that, okay, so what do we actually all gain from this? Some of these are sort of obvious ones, or should be obvious ones, at least because we are all sort of security minded people. So basically, altogether, this is a kind of reduced maintenance burden for each and every one of our organizations, because we don't need to maintain some security patches that we are applying on top of our products. We get more sort of wider review of different kind of security fixes we are introducing. It has a sort of ecosystem-wide impact in that sense that we get sort of good practices, good sort of settings, good defaults on the things. And basically, if you want to sort of join us, some of the quick wins for your critical projects, so dependency pumps, as I already mentioned, scanner integrations, documentation fixes, doing all the sort of security faults on those. And with that, you actually gain by having the kind of insights from those projects as well, that, okay, what's happening in the security areas, what kind of vulnerabilities there might be coming in, and you actually have influences on those. And I think with that, we get to the call to action. So we are doing at least partially our part.
You do your part.
or maybe I'm doing, but we have to get the rest of the company as well do. But I mean, reach out to us if you are interested to join this and start working together with us on the sort of getting overall the whole sort of open source space in a better place from the security perspective. And of course, we are highly appreciate your feedback on this initiative. Is this good, bad, something to improve? And yeah, with that, I guess, let's start doing things. Let's start shoveling the security inside on all of our projects. Yes. Questions?
Thank you.
Comments?
So just to repeat the question, one proposal, the key proposal here is to run these sorts of meetings under Chatham House rule, but of course it doesn't mean that like everybody, product developers for instance, know what Chatham House rule actually means, or in general are used to collaboratively discussing these sorts of things. So Dan asked what kind of additional frame we would need to get this going. That's a very good question. I'm really looking for an answer to that as well. I think we need to find out also over time. We have been discussing this a little bit within the OpenSSF now over the summer or before summer. I think we should try to get this going and then figure out how to shape this further. One way to get started is, for instance, if my colleagues would kind of do a first step by saying, okay, this is what we are planning to do, and we like to set a frame for the discussions, of course. If it comes to Chatham House rule or what to do or not to do, I guess that can be obviously explained and said in the beginning of each call. I do have also in mind, for those of you who know the to-do group, that's just one example, but it's the to-do group is also a Linux Foundation initiative. It's geared towards OSPO people, and the meetings are also under Chatham House rule. So it's not like new. I think definitely folks would learn. But if you have any other suggestions on how to how to get this going. I think what we need, what I also think is important to get the right, and I always call them product people, right? Product teams, to get those on board. I'm more concerned a little bit that here within the OpenSSF, it's like this typical group of people, like an OSPO guy and some other folks very much caring about security, but how do we do the matching towards our internal product teams to get them on board, because they would benefit from this the most, I would say. So yeah, not sure if I answered your question or raised 3 new ones, but yeah, let's get going, I would say.
Yep.
Anything to add?
No, nothing to add on that, but except that I'm kind of in between the product team and the kind of upstream team, because somewhere in the middle. And as I tried to highlight on those examples, it is actually valuable. It's the asset of your product team that we get those security fixes in. So they should treat these kind of actions as well as their sort of critical kind of part of their development, and that it actually adds value to their end product in that sense, that you have more sort of trustworthy environment, you have better supply chain and everything in place.
Are we out of time? Oh, awesome. Awesome. Yeah, let's spend more time. Another question. Oh, yeah, the gentleman in the back.
If I was interested in participating, how could I learn more?
Yeah, thank you for asking that. Reach out on Slack. We're in the process of planning how to get this going. So right now, I'm kind of gathering interested participants. You find me on Slack. Also, my email address might be out there. Join the Best Practices Working Group, because that's also a place to find me and others. And then the plan is within the next couple of weeks to spin up, maybe a kickoff call or another, meeting, gathering of interested parties to really get this going. Right. Any sort of feedback, again, is also welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.